Finally, my computer's been having some kind of error where it's literally been spinning for minutes and minutes. Hi, I'm Brandy. This is Hound Dog Hollow. Um, for those of you who attend, you probably know that I've not been well. Um, I'm not one of those pregnant women blessed with a smooth and blissful pregnancy. I've been dealing with a lot. The present issue is a terrible sinus infection in the left side of my head. So you have sinuses are basically kind of like little cavities inside your skull. Here, here, there's lots of them, but these two are the most people feel sinusitis in here. And so this is where I have the infection, which not only causes a lot of drainage, but also causes a lot of inflammation and pressure. The pressure in the bones around your eyes and your ears, your face really hurts. The good news is my sore throat is gone. Huzzah. The bad news is my vomits are back. So it is what it is. I can eat pleasurably now. Can I keep it down? I don't know. Hi, Carmen. And then, of course, the constant blowing my nose has left it really inflamed. So I've got some Egyptian magic, which is it's not Vaseline, but it's kind of a cream for your face. It's got a lot of really healthy stuff. My esthetician highly recommends it. And so normally I put that on my lips because that's what she does when I have a facial. But today, because I've had fevers and stuff, it's on my lips and it's on my nose. So that's why my nose is shiny. um, so, what are we doing today? So, I like to do Friday night lives or go live and talk to you guys every Friday. Um, Last week was a yard sale. The week before, I believe, was llamas. Hi, Nanette. Um, the week before that, I can't remember, or maybe we were doing um, the new moon or the full moon in Scorpio. This week is the Friday before my solar return. And for those of you unfamiliar with that term, it just means my birthday or when the sun is going to return to the exact degree in which it was when I was born. Um, which we all, I mean, not we all, but many of us celebrate. And so, what I kind of wanted to talk about today is annual workings, things that we only do once a year. And that's different than, like, let's say Christmas or Yule or Halloween or whatever. Those are also once a year, but I consider those Sabbats because they're part of at the root of it, they're part of honoring the changing of the seasons and the cycles of our lives, right? This is a wider space honoring. You're only going to have one to a handful, maybe, of things that you do once a year. So, for example, for me, solar return and the new year. So, are usually my big pushes. And by that, I mean, like, when I take an inventory of my life, when I look at my goals, when I see how I'm doing, am I happy? Am I making progress in what I see, how I see my life going? So annual workings are things that you might only do once a year. Um, you might do something for your solar return. You might do something for however you celebrate New Year's. You might do something for however you celebrate other um, annual anniversaries. And I don't think that we talk about that very much in the magical community because it is um, pretty individual, pretty personal, and a lot of times very secular, which is great, right? It's fine. No worries. But I want to talk a little bit about what I do annually, just to share with you guys and maybe give you some ideas. And also because I obviously having those things done and doing those things and working through that process now. My birthday's next week. Excuse me. Ooh, this pressure in my left ear is just lit. Very painful. Okay. So I am a big astrology person. I would say I'm an intermediate level astrology. But I'm very much interested. I very much follow it. If you've looked at my daily get ready with me, my monthly, my weekly, my my SBETs, my Sabbats, it's always some portion of, relies on the astrology. What is going on in the cosmos, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul, as as a belief. It's one of my beliefs. Um, and when you have your birthday, when you have your solar return, you change your annual perfection. And this is a new topic for me. I learned about it probably at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Because I was never into the whole sign system or Hellenistic astrology or anything like that until I really got the Chani app and I started um, doing astrology more along those lines. And so Chani does do the whole sign system, um, which just very briefly means that your houses are set whole sign. Whereas if you do different systems, like I think Placidus is what I used to do, or what I do sometimes, it just depends on where I'm getting my chart from. You could start, so like in my Placidus chart, my rising is Pisces. And so my first house is Pisces. But because of the way that it's staggered, I completely skip Aries, and my second house is Taurus. So I have what's called an intercepted house. I don't have Aries or Libra on my chart. Whereas in the whole sign, you get your Pisces or you get your whatever is your rising, that's your first sign, and then they will follow sequentially thereafter, which I like it because it's a little bit more easy. A lot of Hellenistic astrologers do not do the outer planets, they stop at Saturn. And there's also the idea that yes, there's the benefics, so the greater benefic, which is Jupiter, and the lesser benefic, which is Venus, which are good energies, happy energies in your life. And then there's the malefics, with Aries being, the god of war, anger, frustration, impulse, and Saturn, which is in a way crueler because it's time. There's nothing that will stop time, boundaries, limits, right? Whereas in modern astrology, we really don't like to think of things in negative terms, but in reality, there's always good and bad to every situation. We are whole creatures with good things and bad things that we like and don't like. So I've been learning a lot about that. Suffice it to say, every year that you hit your birthday, your solar return, your focus for that whole year is a different house. And I hope that you guys know what houses in astrology are. But if you don't, let's just go real briefly back because I've done this a lot on my channel. So we're pretty familiar with signs, right? Aries through Pisces. We probably know what our star sign is, which is where the sun was the day that we're born. And many of us, especially in this community, probably know our big three. So our sun, our moon, where the moon was when we were born, and our rising, what was coming up on the horizon the moment you took your first breath. Sometimes that can be challenging for some people because you need to know your time and your place precisely of birth, because that sign changes every few minutes. So, every those are your zodiac signs. Then you have the planets. Most of you are familiar with the planets. The planets are the players, the energy being expressed in these different areas of your house, right? So your sun is going to be yourself, your true self, your core self. And how that flavors, how that is your sign. So I'm a sun. My true self is a Leo. That's how my soul is. That's how my core person is. Your moon is your emotional self, your unconscious, your inner life. Sometimes even how you perceive yourself. And for me, this Aquarius. I was born on a full moon, so it's an opposition, meaning it's the opposite sign directly across. And then, of course, my rising, which is how you present to the world, is Pisces. Um, then there's the next layer, which is houses. If these are all actors playing roles in the play of your life, what part of the stage are they on? Right? So the first house is yourself. The second house is what you value, it's your possessions, it's your finances. The third house is how you communicate. The fourth house is your home. The fifth house, and these are just general, is your creativity. The sixth house, is your work, your health, your habits. Those are your personal houses, right? They pertain to you specifically. The second set of houses, 7 through 12, is going to be how you're engaging with the world. So your seventh house is your partnerships. Your eighth house is things like legacies, other people's monies, but also mental health. There's a lot going on there. Your ninth, your ninth, your 10th, your 11th, and your 12th house. With your 10, 11, and 12 being kind of um, broader topics. So, like, for example, the 11th house is your friends groups, your networks. The 10th house is your public image, your career. The ninth house is how you learn, and so on and so forth. So it depends on how they're doing it. So Chani app, which is free, by the way, you can get your free natal chart and your free reading, and I love it. It's got weekly and all sorts of information, lots and lots and lots of content for free. Chani is whole sign. And then so things like cafe astrology is Placidus or some and astro.com. They give you the choice on how you want to do it. And then it just depends on the books. And I have a whole section on astrology books. I reviewed I have just from what I can see that I've reviewed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 astrology books that I've reviewed, and then I've got a few more on my docket to read and review for you guys. And I also did like a course, and I have like information on my website. Astrology is like one of my favorite things. It's definitely different depending on who you're talking to, but it's not different. It was set when you were born. I mean, technically things are like moving, but that's not the point. That's really advanced. Um, but it's just how their system sees it. But your big three shouldn't change. But your houses for your big three might. Like for me, it does because I have intercepted houses. At any rate, pick one, learn, and then you could go back and learn the other stuff. What I'm getting to is that every year, when you turn a certain age, you go through a different segment of your natal chart. A different theme is going to play out in your life. It's called your annual profection. Okay? And so I was 37 last year. And so on your 37th year, you'll be going through your second house. Because when you're born, you're in your first, and you're going around, so on and so forth. So in your 37th year, let me see if I can find a link so that you guys can see what the hell I'm talking about. Trying to find a nice, easy one with a picture. They're not easy. Um, Ooh, wow. Hold on a second. I'm trying to find a nice, simple one with a picture. Let me just see what we got here. Here we go. That's what I want. So basically, you're not going to dive into that whole topic, but the link that I'm going to add, if you click on it, you should be able to click there and you'll see a little wheel and just find the number that represents your age. So for me, So for everybody, the year that you're 37, you're going through your second house. I'm turning 38, so I'll be going through my third house. And what does that mean? How does that change things? What is the focus going to be? That's one of the reasons why I had a solar return reading. So for those of you interested, you can do all sorts of things for your solar return. You can do, um, you know, a you can cast a chart for your solar return. You can just kind of review what your annual perfection is going to change to. You could do a tarot spread. You could do any kind of divination that you want about your birthday. Celebrate your birthday however you celebrate it. But for me, I wanted to have a reading, and I have my reading with Celestial Bruja. Um, so it doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. I mean, it depends on what placements you have. It's very personal. For me, wasn't necessarily bad, but it was just like they everything around money, value, self-worth, all of the things that pertain to the second house came up a lot last year, and I made a lot of big changes in those respects. Changing jobs, getting my education, um, being tested about like where are my boundaries and my limits going to be, because in my work, healthcare, they'll take and take and take, and at one point you have to say like I'm worth more than this. We have to stop this, which is also part of your second house. Um, Suffice it to say, I got a reading specifically to kind of see like what are the themes going to be, what are the sub things, what do I need to look out for, especially it's not cheap, I'm not gonna lie. But the main reason is I'm going through so much transition. I wanted to get an idea of what I'm going to be facing, because I'm obviously not feeling well already, and then I'm going to have a C-section, so major surgery and a newborn and so on and so forth, which is just it's a lot going on, right? Which is why I chose to gift that to myself for my birthday. I don't give myself like actual gifts. So that was one of the things, and for yourself for free you can find out what annual perfection year you're in, what house you're going through, and then if you have your natal chart, which you can get for free, Cafe Astrology or astro.com, get it for free. It'll tell you who rules that house, and that is your time lord. That is the planet, the vibe, the person responsible for how things are going to go this year. So for me, last year, my second house is Aries, and so my time lord is Mars. So a lot of impatience, a lot of action, energy, drive, sometimes ruthlessness. Um, that's who naturally rules my second house of finances and self worth, anyways. But that was the person who kind of had the reins, the energy that had the reins in my life that year. It's the car that I was driving last year, right? I'm driving a Aries vehicle. I don't even know what that would be. A hot rod. um, as I transition into this year, my time lord, because Taurus is the ruler of my third house, my time lord will be Venus. So it should be a better vibe, more pleasure, beauty, love, delight, not so much sharp, I would say. So I am looking forward to that. So that also it also tells you some extra information, right? So let's say for me, I'll give you an example of me with my rising being Pisces. My second house would be Aries, which is what I'm in now. On my birthday, we're going to transition into Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is my time lord. So the main themes are going to be all the themes that have to do with the third house. And you can look that up. There's a lot. Basic, like, keyword is communication, but there's a lot going on there in the third house that we don't talk about in layman astrology, like most of us are. Um, from there, if you wanted to get an idea about sub themes or connected themes, you would say, okay, it's my third house, which is Taurus, ruled by Venus. Where is Venus in my chart? Like, what sign is Venus in? For me, it's Virgo. I'm a Venus Virgo, which is actually its detriment, which means that things are going to be probably harder or more tedious than they could be. So that's the sub theme, right? My Venus, my love, is in Virgo, which makes it harder for me. It's because Virgo is very analytical and checklisty and things like that. And loving someone sometimes means not being so critical and judgmental. Yeah, it is confusing. So, suffice it to say, it's something that I'm into. You can just generally say, like, okay, I'm 37. We're going to be looking at the second house and just do a brief search about what that means for you. And then you can see, journal, think about how those themes are coming up in your life. If you are 37, you're going to be doing your finances, your possessions, your self-worth, and things that you value. That's going to be the overarching theme for the year. That's the minimal amount that you can do. If so, the fourth house, you'll be in their fourth house, which is home. It's the house of home. It's ruled by Cancer generally, but literally it might be different for you. If anything, for free, you can go to Cafe Astrology or Astro.com or Chani. Let me show you guys Chani. And all of those will pull up your natal chart for free and give you at Cafe Astrology, it's like 29 pages of information about what that means. And Chani's really in depth about what that means too. All of the information. It's a great place to start, and it's a free resource for you to start if you're astro curious. There's lots and lots of resources. If you guys are interested in that, please leave me comments, and I can just do we could do a Friday night live astrology session. Suffice it to say, my annual workings, important ones, are my solar return, in which case from now on every year, because it's just so great. I'm going to be doing a solar return reading because I'm really feeling good about, like, being prepared. Just keep an eye out too, because the way that I found V, which is Celestial Bruja, she was having a sale, $33 for a reading in your chart of what is going to be the three major themes in your life for 2022. And I was like, I'll try it. $33 is, I'm not going to eat out or whatever. There's lots of things that we spend that kind of money on. And I really appreciated it, and I really liked it. So that's something that you can do. Other things that you might want to do is you might want to do a year ahead spread for your tarot or your oracle. You might want to do some kind of divination around it. There's lots of things like on Etsy, and again, read your reviews, who are fairly reasonably priced and good information. Another thing that you might consider that I'm going to talk about when I talk about New Year's is personal inventory. And this is free. And this is something that I do mainly for New Year's, but a lot I'm going to start doing more on my birthday. And it's just like checking in with yourself, how your life is going, how you're feeling about it, and setting goals for the year, an annual picture. The big drive that I do this for is New Year's. Every New Year's, I have a whole spiel. My mom and my sisters, my husband's used to it, but my mom and my sisters were here this year, and I made them participate. And it's just like, and Chani app had them too. How is it going? How is it going? Where are you going? What do you want? How is this looking? Just taking a dive and checking in with yourself. Like, really, am I moving in the direction that I want to? And it's so important to do that because we've talked about daily things that we do. We talked about weekly things we do. I have to go back and talk to you guys about the monthly things that I do. Seasonal, you break things down and you grind it out every day, right? But if we're grinding it out every day and we never step back and say, what am I like, where am I going? You're not gonna achieve your goals. So that's one of the main things that I want you guys to just consider. And there's no excuse around money. Most of these things are free. Um, so I will say one of my very favorite things to do is called Level 10 Life. And I literally draw it how I hand. And you can print it for free online. You can do it however you want. But it says 10 sections of your life. I'll probably find a free one for you guys. And then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. 10 sections of your life, and you give yourself a grade about it. You say, how am I doing? And a lot of it's in bullet journals, which means that you draw it or you write it for free for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and share a link. I do that every single year. I do it on the New Year's, though. It's my habit. And I say to myself, okay, and I sit with my husband, and this time with my mom and my sisters, and I say, okay, first category, friendships. How are my friendships doing? And you give yourself a grade 1 out of 10, with 1 being it could not possibly get any worse, and 10 being it could not possibly get any better. I don't ever give myself a 10, and I don't ever give myself a 1 because it can always get better and it can always get worse. But I kind of do a review and we chat. So first we come up with our own numbers. Then we kind of talk to each other about where we're at. And it's nice because sometimes the other person, like when my husband and I do it together, he might say, oh, it's a 3. And it's just like, oh, but didn't we meet up with friends this year? You've been talking a lot to your high school friends. Like, and then we kind of work it out. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I did do those things and I enjoy those things and let me make more time for them. So then you grade yourself on each of these different categories of your life. It's not a contest, it's just for you personally. Write it down, keep it somewhere, journal about it. So it's in my journal. It's in my journal every single year. And I like to look at what it was last year. And I can see, am I trending happier? Am I trending unhappier? Whatever. So from there, that kind of helps me like, what is my lowest satisfaction rates? What am I the most unhappy about? And on the link, so there's friendships, your romantic relationships, your career, your mental health, your physical health, your finances, your spiritual health, your personal development, your giving and contributions, and your fun. And then you kind of grade yourself and you see where you're doing okay, where you're doing well, where you're struggling. And I wouldn't say if you think you're struggling everywhere, don't pick everything. Pick one thing. If it's that bad where you think you're struggling in every department, just pick one thing that you're going to try and improve. From there, you kind of have an idea like, hey, I'm obviously not happy in this aspect of my life. What can I do? What's a realistic goal that I can do to get back on track, to live the life that I want to live? Um, and that is something I do every year. Take an inventory. however that looks like for you. Level 10 life is one of my favorites. And then from there, make some goals. So I usually do a lot of shadow work, a lot of self inventory, a lot of review. I do a lot of journal prompts. You can do as much or as little as you want. And then from there, so even let's see, for New Year's, I got a wayfinding reading, which I don't think, so it was excellent. I got it from Lady Althea. She writes really good books. She's got a really excellent course. I think the wayfinding, we'll see. But I typically, if I was going to do it, I would do it no more than twice a year, or when something big and new was coming up, like if I'm moving or if I'm changing jobs. And so I did it in December because I had a lot of spiritual downloads around surrender. And I couldn't like, I have a lot of Virgo placements. I'm a very driven person, if you guys have followed me for a while. I could not, for the life of me, wrap my head around how I was going to accomplish what I'm set out to do in my life, which is a lot. And surrender, like, I cannot, I just, it's still challenging for me to wrap my head around. So I asked for her to do a reading for me. She does bones, and it was excellent. So I also got one for my solar return because I'm having a new baby, I'm starting a new job. It's a lot going on. And it was nice to kind of see like what themes came up again. Of course, you can do divination for yourself. You can exchange with a friend. Be like, I will draw you up, I will spread for you and you spread for me. You can do it for yourself. For my tarot year ahead that I do every year, I do that for myself. And I lay it out, huge coffee table, huge mess, takes hours. Lay it out, do the whole thing. So that's, you can do a year ahead spread. The other thing that I like to do, so this is, we're transitioning to New Year's. The other thing I like to do is I like to find my card of the year, my tarot card of the year. And you do that by adding your birthday with the year. So for me, my birthday is August 11th, right? So what it would be is 08112022. So you would take 0 plus 8 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2. That would give you your card of the year. So your birthday this year, whatever your birthday is, and this year would give you your card of the year. So for me, I always get 2 to 3 cards. And the reason is you can break it down to the smallest number, or if you get 2 cards that are in within the first 22, I always do 22 because 0 is not a number. Um, then you can say that's your card as well. And then break it down. So for me, 8 plus 1 plus 1, 10, 12, 14, 16. That's the tower card, right? And then you break it down again. 6 plus 1 is a chariot. And when you really look at it, the tower and the chariot are, have a lot of similar themes as what I've been, it's my personal um, personal gnosis, unverified personal gnosis. Is like, okay, so if the chariot is driving your future, how you want to go, it's control of your path, it's being driven. It's like, I always think in dream language, in symbology, that a vehicle symbolizes the pathway of your life, right? So that's a chariot. This is your direction. And with your will, you can move it, right? So then the tower is catastrophe. It is it is sudden shifts. It is the floor being pulled out from under you. It is a dramatic change that you did not necessarily bring about. It's hard for me to synthesize because I don't like change in the best of times, much less sudden dramatic change that I did not want. So the tower always, my first thought is catastrophe. I'm trying to talk myself down because it's not a catastrophic year, but it is a year of a lot of things happening and none of it going exactly the way that I thought. But because the other card that I have for the year is the chariot, is them reminding me I'm in control of how I react to this. I'm in control with how I do what I do with this information, how I move through my life. I can choose how to deal with things that come at me. So that's been a really, really um, excellent pairing for me for growth as a human being. Like the Tower, which I dread, my least favorite card, um, and the Chariot, which I never thought of much anyway. And the way that those two can work together and how they're working in me and in my life. Because you think that I like so many things, unexpected obstacles, road bumps. It's not easy for me to be sick all the fucking time and to not be able to do the things that I want to do when I'm such a driven person. I had this year planned out. I had saved money. I had made plans. I got pregnant. I can travel. I'm really sick. I keep having to pull back, do less, change it up. And then I have like bare minimum tasks. It's like I really wanted to do this for the house. I don't have the energy. How's that going to happen? How are we going to pace that out? I really wanted to go these places. Again, no energy. I don't feel good. I haven't been able to do the things that I wanted to do. And so it has been setback, obstacle, setback, obstacle. And none of it has been catastrophic. The baby's okay. I'm okay. My husband's okay. My son's okay. Our house is okay. I have a job. I have food. Everything's okay. But in the wrong mindset, you can really get in a bad fucking places. Everything that you try and you plan goes to shit. It could be really discouraging. So I try to keep in mind how the Chariot, I'm still driving. I don't have to crash. I don't have to give up. Am I going to have to take a detour? Bet. We're taking a detour. Lots of them. Am I still getting where I'm going? Yes, because it's just 1 year. It's just one car trip. I can do this. 23. So 23 is not a number. So 5, the Hierophant is your card of the year, which is my birth card. Hierophant is my birth card, and it suits me. I'm a Hierophant for sure. Except for I don't really like tradition, but I don't like change either. But I love uh, getting on my soapbox, so to speak. The overall card of 2022 is the Lovers. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, the Lovers. So that's another theme that's coming up for all of us, our partnerships, our unions. How's that going? For me, we're getting older. I could not imagine anybody more suited for me than my husband. I couldn't imagine, like, he's the sky. He's the sky. But we're growing older. And the trick with a long term relationship is that what is 12? What do you mean? The total 12? So 12, is it the Hermit? Let me look. God, now I'm questioning my sanity. But it could be. Is it Marcy? Is it? So here's another free app because I know a lot of you guys. This is tough times. Labyrinthos. Let me see if I gotta spell it right. Fuck. Labyrinthos. Download that app. It's free tarot app. It's great. Um, Let me just look at my major arcana. Sorry, guys. I am pregnant and my head hurts like you would not fucking believe. It's a hanged man. It's the hangman. So the 12th card is the hangman. And I had the hangman. No, did I have the hangman last year? And so, just very briefly. So, what I like about Labyrinthos is you have all of the cards, and then really briefly, it gives you some keywords and a brief blurb. and helps you. You could do quizzes to learn the cards, to memorize them. But the hangman is sacrifice, relief, and martyrdom. So the hangman is swinging upside down. The serenity of his expression seems to communicate that he's doing this of his own free will. I struggled with the hangman because to me, the hangman implies stagnation, that I'm standing still. And for me, that's one of my worst fears. I hate feeling like my life is going by without me. I hate feeling stagnant. I hate that I just can't. And again, that's my personal journey. And it doesn't mean that for everybody. That's the beauty of divination and of symbology and of archetypes, is how you can examine your mental health and your state of mind by what these things mean to you specifically, what comes up to you when you see that. So the hanged man is 12, and then your other card would be 3, which is the empress, which is, so again, those two things in my mind are um, not opposing energy, but definitely connected, because she's about fertility, she's about abundance, she's about creation. And it's not just about fertility as in you're making a baby, you're creating things, you're bringing things from the mind, from some other realm into this reality. Maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're making art, maybe you're crocheting beautiful things, maybe you're nurturing plants or animals. But that's the empress energy, which is growth, movement, things that grow. Babies don't stay stagnant. Plants don't stay stagnant. Animals don't stay stagnant. Fields don't stay stagnant. For me, the Empress is about the the turning of the wheel, and just like how things grow and how we make, how we create. Whereas the Hangman is that moment where we're standing still. It's certainly in my mind. That's how it goes. So every year I like to check out what's the card of the year in general, what's my cards of the year, and how's that theme playing out in my life. In my personal life, the Chariot and Tower have been showing up all the time. The Tower has been just being mindful of those obstacles coming at me, and the Chariot has been my saving grace, reminding me that I'm in charge of how I respond to this. I'm in charge of navigating my life, of making the most of this situation, of finding reroutes. Ah, God, baby's giving me heartburn. Okay, so we talked about your solar return, your birthday, and annual perfections, but also we talked about different things that you can do to mark annual events like tarot or divination readings, personal check ins, goal setting. Um, for New Year's, I talked about some of the things that I do. So I do a year ahead spread, I get my card of the year, I do a personal inventory called Level 10 Life, I set goals, I make a bucket list, but that's just for fun. Like, nothing hard, not particularly hard. I want to put my feet in the ocean. I want to see a meteor shower, which, by the way, is Perseids now. From now until August 12th, perfect time to see meteors, shooting stars. Um, I want to teach my son Spanish. I want to have a fancy dinner for my anniversary. Those are bucket list items that I put on my list this year. And you can make anything up that you want. Maybe you want to have a funnel cake at the state fair. Maybe you want to um, get your nails done. You haven't done that in years. You want to set aside a commitment that you're going to get a manicure. Um, and then that's how you make things happen for yourself, at least in my opinion. Setting these annual goals is how I manifest my reality, how I make things that I want happen. Because then I kind of like, well, what do I want? I know I want these things. And then I look at the different energies of the Sabbats. I look at the different energies of the zodiac signs, of the new moons, of the full moons. And I say, this is a perfect time to work on this kind of thing. What goals do I have that go with this kind of thing? Right. And then I kind of align myself to you spend my energy in the most not profitable, but the to get the most bang out of my buck. And it's a big topic. I'm sure there are things, spiritual or witchy things that you do annually, and maybe you just haven't thought of it in those terms. Excuse me. So I'm trying to think what else have I done. Oh, so my book of shadows. I did. So I picked a word of the year. So for 2020, so here's my 2022. Everything that I have done for 2022. I pick a word of the year. For me, my word was vibrant. I identified the card of 2022, which is the lovers. And then my personal cards is the chariot and the tower. I also do I also do Chinese astrology. So we are in the year of the water tiger. And I buy this little book every year by Lillian too. You find out your Chinese astrology sign. I'm a wood rat. And you pull up this book. I want to say digitally I got it for like less than $10. And it just says like here's some things that are going to come at you this year. That's the other thing. I do a huge planner review, and almost all of them have like this is what you're facing this year, and I go through it and I review all of that. Chani has your workshop for the year, and it was excellent. So much information. I just loved it. And then again, my annual perfection, but that changes on my birthday, not with the new year. And some of you might say, hey, the witch's new year is the 31st. Do it then, baby. Whenever makes sense to you. I still do the secular new year because for me, the new year is not sunset. For me, the new day is sunrise. Or the new day is not sunset. In the Celtic and in the Jewish, a day starts at sundown. The next day starts at sundown, which is why, you know, a lot of people celebrate Lammas Eve or Hallows Eve the day before because the day starts at sundown. For me, the day starts with sunrise. So, what does that mean with Sabbaths? If the for me the Sabbath at October 31st, All Hallows, All Saints, however you do that, Samhain is the death. It's the end. It's the end of the year. It's the last harvest. It's the blood harvest. The sun is just going to deteriorate until we're at the very last shortest day of the year, which will be the winter solstice. Some people say, okay, that's the end. So this is the new year. That's how the Celts thought of it, right? For me, I say, well, Yule, and once you hit Yule, every day thereafter, the sun will get bigger. The day will get longer. The sun will get more powerful. So to me, in my mind, that's when the new year starts. When the sun regains energy, comes back to life. So I celebrate Yule for probably 3 weeks because I do solstice, Yule, Christmas, and Epiphany. All of that from, the 20th, roughly 20th, 21st of December through the 6th of January, which is Three Kings Day. What else did I do? I'm just seeing if there's anything I could share with you guys. I think I am getting to the end of my talking because my head's starting to hurt. Would love to know anything that you guys do on the yearly, or if this inspired you. If nothing else, you can do a tarot reading for yourself. You could do a personal inventory. You could set some goals for yourself. Um, you can look up your card of the year. You can set a word of the year. Um, Lots and lots of options out there. I will cover that. We'll talk about this again as we get into the new year. And I'll go through my process with you because that one's actually a much bigger process. Oh, yeah. um, that one's actually a bigger process for me because there's so much more materials available at that time. Like I said, almost all of my planners and the resources that I shared with you guys have information about like how to close a year out and start a new one. So if you want to go get some more information, you can go through my planner reviews. And again, that kind of talks about how I'm closing a year out and starting a new one. And I'll do if there's interest, I'll do a live or get ready with me about like that. It's a long process for me even, but I might tell you what resources I use and things like that. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because my solar return is next year, and I paid for two things. Number one, I paid for to have my solar return read, and I did that with Celestial Bruja. You can also just look up that chart that I leave you a link, and then that'll tell you the general house that you're dealing with. It'll give you a brief information about annual perfections, and then you can just research the house and kind of go from there. The other thing that I did is I got another wayfinding reading, um, and that you can get a reading from anybody in any way that makes sense to you. They sell them on Etsy, they sell them on Instagram. You probably follow people on here that have them. There's there's an option for your price range. I promise. I've gotten readings from Etsy's for $5 that were just fine. I've gotten free readings from people who are just trying to work on their skills. And I paid a lot of money for these two last readings because these are really professionals at the top of their game. And I trust their work really well. So I probably won't do a tarot spread for the year. I have a lot of information to be going on with, and it resonated perfectly with what's going on with my life and the overall theme that I have still to deal with for 2022. Um, and my health and things that are going on with my personal transitions. But I feel like, and then, so then we have to start thinking, Nanette, about how we're going to make those things happen. And some things, they're not happening this year. I made my bucket list with completely different, I'll share something really personal with you guys. I struggle with infertility. And every year, for years and years, one of my main goals for the year was to get pregnant and have a baby. Every year I would fail. And this year I was like, I'm not gonna fucking do that. If it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But every year I feel like shit that I don't get to check off that box. And so I didn't set that as a goal this year. And bet this year we're having a baby. And the other things that I set a goal as, a lot of things that I set a goal as, are not going to happen because of the baby. One of my primary goals was to go to Puerto Rico with my mother and my son, and see where she grew up and see where my ancestors come from. I've been to Puerto Rico, but never with my son and my mom. And visit the cemetery where a lot of our people are, and just like, man, that was like very, very, very high on my list. And it's impossible because Puerto Rico has Zika. Zika causes birth defects. Not that I'm not well enough to travel or do stuff anyway. Of course, yeah, definitely do it. Um, Other things that I had from like my personal body, like I'm going to reach my goal weight. I'm going to run a race, which thank God I ran the race literally 3 days before I got pregnant. I ran a 5K. It was wonderful. Um, I'm going to, I had all these things that really depended on a different outcome than what I got. And so it's always a lesson. Like, I am not going to make these goals this year, but getting something else that I really wanted. So it balances out. Well, suffice it to say, you probably have, if you've never done it at least once in your life, have an idea of what you want to do lifetime wise. And then say to yourself, well, where should I be in 10 years? Where should I be in 5 years? Where should I be in 3 years? And then every year at the new year or your solar return, you say, okay, this is where I'm heading, and I need to be here. What can I get done this year to get closer to my goals? And is this even a reasonable goal for me still? I'm at 38, I'm not going to probably be an astronaut. Not that that's my goal, but just realistically, you have to kind of gauge. Or, maybe you thought, oh, I'm getting married next year to so and so, and it didn't work out. That's obviously take that shit off your list and do something else. Perfect. That's a good way to do it. You shouldn't just be things that you, and it's hard. Yes, it should be things that you can do, but always have some push goals, right? Some extra things is just like, if everything went perfectly, then I wanted to do this. Just kind of have a sight of like, and then. Um, and sometimes that's my bucket list items. But my bucket list items are are less, how do I say it? I don't know. So my goal list versus my bucket list. There's a difference in vibe. So my goal list is like, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner. I'm going to finish grad school. I am going to eventually, my long term goal for my life is I'm going to be a little abuelita living in my land, and I can cure people in their body, their mind, and their spirit with my knowledge, with science, with herbs, with my words, with my presence. A matriarch, of the old school variety, like strengthens my family, leaves a huge legacy. I want to live forever in their hearts. And that takes a lifetime of work. I know that. And so every year it's just like, I want to homestead. I want to know how to raise food. I want to know how to heal the sick scientifically and other avenues. That's my long-term goal. And every year I'm like, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner. I'm going to learn embryology. I'm going to get a cow. Those are goals that I'm setting for to lead me to that old witch in the forest who can talk to animals and make plants grow and solve all your worries with a cup of yum yums. That's long term. My bucket list item, my number one bucket list item, and this is so personal, is to dance with my son at his wedding. However that looks, I will know that I had a good life if I can dance with my son at his wedding. And that's out of my hands. So many things depend on that. That's just a beautiful wish. That's just something I hope to someday do. And some of the things on that list is just like, I hope to see a shooting star. You can't guarantee that. I hope to, you know, see an elephant in India. I hope to, be married for 50 years. Just things that's just like, there's so much chance involved. So that's the difference between my goal list and my bucket list. One is like, I know through force of will that I can get most of the way through there. Bucket list is just like, it'd be nice, but you have no idea how the world's going to be. So that's just the way that it is. Yep. So think about that. I would love comments about what are you looking at? What is your annual workings that you do? How does that look like for you? As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Usually these are around 2 hours. I'm not going to do that today because I don't feel particularly well. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful day.